Hi there. In this lecture we see a clash of two absolute chess legends, Mikhail Tal with the white pieces against Bobby Fischer. This is played in 1959 in the Bled Zagreb Belgrade Candidates round 20. d4 for Mikhail Tal. We see Fischer using his King's Indian defense. And we see here bishop e2, knight f3. This is a classical approach. Petrosian system though now. d5. This is Tigran Petrosian's line, named after Tigran Petrosian. Knight bd7, we see bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, a6, white castles, queen e8, unpinning, which facilitates knight h7 sometimes, as an example, or knight h5. We see knight d2, knight h7 being chosen on this occasion, b4, and now bishop f6. It seems already white is in a really good shape here. If f5, for example, e takes, g takes, bishop h5 is nasty. Look how the bishops are kind of winning in exchange. Black is forced to play rook f7. This reminds me of one of the games of Sturgeon I noticed. My father used to play this guy called Sturgeon at BDH. And Sturgeon was playing people in simultaneous displays successfully, but he came unstuck himself in a King's Indian game, I remember, when the opponent had these bishops like this. It can be a little bit of a downside, this whole f5 plan. It weakens those light squares, and tactically it's a horrible exploitation when you see this. So that has to be sidestepped anyway. So bishop f6, we see bishop takes, knight h takes f6, knight b3, queen e7. We see queen d2 hitting the h6 pawn, king h7. Queen e3, we see knight g8. And now the c5 break. It seems as though black's getting flooded on the queen side, essentially, and has to do something. But f5, without the dark square bishop, to me, this looks as though it's just asking for trouble. Weaknesses around the king. It's like, the bishop, although it might have been bad, so to speak, it at least was making the position a little bit more solid on the dark squares. And here, after e takes, g takes, we see f4. Fischer takes on f4, not minding his pawns being fragmented. But e4 doesn't seem palatable to give this d4 square either. We see queen takes f4, d takes c5, but Tal's not obliged to do an ordinary recapture. He can just celebrate f5 being weak now with bishop d3. If he recaptured on c5, maybe this justifies black's play this kind of position. Black might actually be okay. But with bishop d3, there are big question marks now about black's king safety. We see c takes. This doesn't really help king safety. Rook a e1. White's pieces are all kind of diverts roaring to go, whilst black's pieces are kind of sleepy over here, spectator pieces. And we see the queen is attacking the knight, but guess what white plays in this position? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, which really cast doubt on black's king safety, actually. So in a way, this is echoing later Kramnik's brutal treatment of the King's Indians, just to go for the king quite often. These pawn moves around the king and losing the fianchetto bishop, the g7 bishop, it's risky business sometimes. We see rook e6 just offering the knight to really blast through here. The knight could have moved. I mean, this is also fairly pleasant. White can build up like this on f5. It's pleasant for white. But this is spectacular now. So bishop takes f5 check. Rook takes is played. If king g7, then there's rook g6, and this is just nasty stuff. The black king's going to get mated. And if you're wondering, this isn't going to bode well for king safety either. For example, like this kind of thing. These pieces are not participating in any defense, and so these are outcomes. The queen would have to give herself up here. Otherwise, queen takes f8. These are horrible outcomes. So anyway, Fischer decided to sack there. try and stave off the attack a bit. But rook f3, the rook's converging. The knight is cute. It's stopping queen a1. It's stopping queen c1. This rook stopping rook e1. There's no check for the queen. There's no check here. The knight's stopping all the checks. We have queen b2, and now rook e8 pinning things. Starting to pin things, paralyzing the black position. Rook knight d f6. If queen g7, if the queen dared return back, there's a welcome committee. Rook g3, and this is just disaster. Like this, for example. And well, it's going to be hugely material up. Yeah, if you know, what else here after rook takes c8? Yeah, let's clear out. So knight d f6 was played, and we have now queen takes f6. Queen takes, rook takes. So okay, technically black has knight and bishop. Well, no, actually, it's kind of completely busted. Black's got some pawns over here. Are they going to see the light of day? It's not knight and bishop for rook. It's the exchange down as well. It's a total disaster. Yeah, okay. This clings on for dear life. If rook takes, then there's king takes. But black's in a bind here, as you might suspect. Tal just casually plays knight a5. After h5, h4, running black out of any moves, basically. Rook b8, knight c4. The knight is heading for e5, where it will facilitate rook f7 and mating the kings shortly after. We see b5 as another example. If b6, d6, c takes, knight takes. This position, yeah, white's going to be winning material. So that's horrendous. And if a5 here is another example, then rook f7 and taking here. Okay, so b5 was played, and now knight e5, the game ended here. If Fischer played on, if knight g6, there's no point, check, taking here. Yeah, as an example, if a5 instead, then actually check, and rook h8 is checkmate. So the game ended here, quite the crush. This section is enough to put anyone off for good for playing the King's Engine defense, isn't it? I'm aware of that. And as a King's Engine fan myself, but I don't play it so much nowadays, actually. I have other systems. But yeah, it's a bittersweet experience playing through these. But yeah, Tal was the man of the moment in 1959, you know, one of the top, absolute top players in the world. And yeah, Fischer was just young at the time of this game, pretty young, just gaining experience, to be fair. And he found experiments for his play in this game and improved on it and made the King's Engine into a much more formidable weapon. So much so that, you know, Kasparov ended up using the King's Engine influenced by Fischer. So Fischer did evolve his King's Engine after this 1959 tournament. But then, you know, the second wave of attack on the King's Engine was made by Vladimir Kramnik. Okay, so first Tal and then Kramnik. Okay, later on. And there are also, of course, other great players showing the downsides of the King's Engine, that the space advantage is kind of a big concern for it. Okay, I hope you got something from this. Thanks very much. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed the free sample from my ultimate guide to chess pawn structures, where I really enjoyed gaining a lot of insight for myself and sharing with you guys about various different key structures which you should know about: isolated pawns, backward pawns, hanging pawns. I even talk about form pawns, and this actually has a mammoth 45 plus hours of video content in this course, and you can get it at a discount as well with the standard voucher code, which is on Kingscrusher TV/pawns. So I hope you do check out this pawn structure course. It's given me a lot of confidence to know fundamentally what's going on. Helps with, you know, getting a template plan quite easily just based on the pawn structure cues of a chess position. Okay, so I do hope you check that out. Thanks very much.